My first question is, how is the concept coming out of your book, Stop Selling and Start Leading, where it talks about creating an awesome connecting experience, the new paradigm in business growth?
Well, what we did was we knew that experience was important. You hear all over the place about customer experience. But we wanted to know what that really meant, especially in the B2B space. But we found so many parallels. Buyers don't really differentiate between business to business or business to consumer. They're used to what they're getting in the B2C space. So that applied. What it turns out to mean, the relevance of it, is that buyers do have a very specific idea about what makes an awesome connecting experience. And when we did the seller side research, we found out that sellers don't have the same idea that buyers do. So when they're trying to deliver an experience, they might be missing the mark. So the paradigm, the shift, is to understand what buyers are looking for, and then what are the behaviors, very specifically the behaviors that sellers can use more frequently so that buyers are having an awesome connecting experience, which includes an emotional connection. It's not just logic.
Tell me a little bit more about these behaviors. Can you expound on the leadership behaviors that you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. So we asked buyers about 30 very specific behaviors, and these are behaviors that are more typically associated with leadership and not sales. Because we know something about those 30 behaviors due to the research of my co-authors. It goes back over 30 years. Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner have really set the pace in leadership development because of their research and how foundational it is. And those 30 leadership behaviors, we know from their research that they cause people to more willingly choose to follow the leader. So we thought, what would happen if sellers demonstrated these behaviors and became leaders with their buyers as opposed to using the more traditional salesy behaviors? So that's where we started with those 30 behaviors. Some people out there probably know them. This is the leadership challenge, the 5 practices of exemplary leadership. It's those kinds of behaviors.
I was able to read in your book, one of the things you were talking about was credibility. Now, why has credibility become such an influential force in the modern sales journey?
Well, I think there are 2 reasons. The first is that there's this prevalent thought that sellers can't be trusted, that they're not credible, that they won't follow through on what they tell you they're going to do, or that they overpromise and underdeliver. So that's the first reason. It's just, we can't help it. It's inherent to how people feel about sellers. But let me give you another reason. There's research that tells us the 3 things that equal source credibility. Now, I can give you an analogy here if you like. It'll probably help. So
sure.
We look for 3 things when we are determining whether or not someone is credible. Are we going to believe them? Are we going to buy into what they're saying? And those 3 things are trustworthiness, expertise, and dynamism. So let me give you an example in that everybody can relate to. If you think about those movies, you know, the ones where there's like a hostile witness up on the stand, and there's an aggressive attorney who's just pounding that witness with questions. That's like the scenario that I want to create. You can't handle the truth. That kind of movie.
Yeah.
So, okay. So when you have those movies or when you're on a jury, there's inevitably an expert witness. And that expert witness is brought in just to help explain something technical or to help make a compelling case. They come in with expertise. That's the lawyer who brings them in, reads through all their credentials and tries to prove just how expert they are. And the second piece is trustworthiness. The expert witness, because of the expertise, has that start, but they also have to come across to the jury as being trustworthy. So what the opposing attorney does to try to knock down the credibility is they attack them on the trustworthiness. They say, were you paid for this testimony? How often do you go out and get paid for your testimony? They plant these little seeds of doubt to try to erode the trustworthiness and make the source less credible. And the third piece is super important. It's dynamism. What attorneys don't want is an expert witness who will put the jury to sleep. They have to be dynamic. They have to be interesting. And that dynamism, that's oftentimes the missing piece, or in sales, sometimes it's the only piece that sellers over-rely on their personality. Yeah.
And so I'm thinking from an advisor's point of view, how does, especially the new advisors, right? Somebody who's pretty much new to the business, they're trying to build their book of business, they're trying to build their clientele. Technically, if you're new, you don't necessarily have much expertise. So how can you make up for that tripod of trustworthy expertise and dynamism? Can you, at least in the very beginning, focus on trustworthiness and dynamism to make up for the temporary lack of expertise?
Well, everything is relative. So your
right.
expertise relative to your client that you're dealing with, you probably still have a superior level of knowledge versus your client about, the best planning options for investments or insurance, education expenses, retirement, whatever you're consulting about. You probably know more than they do, even if you don't know everything. And then if you don't, you know where to get it. And you're going to, because of your trustworthiness, probably be a little bit transparent about that. I will get that answer for you because I have the resources and the network. I'll find out for you. So that counts. And I think the other piece that we shouldn't leave out is that expertise is the logic part, but buyers don't really make decisions based on logic. They justify decisions using logic, but trustworthiness and dynamism are the entry point. That's the emotional and the connection piece.
And do you find that, at least in the modern sales journey, are more companies understanding that and going towards a level of trustworthiness and dynamism, or are we still stuck in outdated scripts and basically psychological manipulation to get the sale?
Yeah, well, this is the best part of having the blueprint, which this is a behavioral blueprint that we have in the book, Stop Selling and Start Leading, from our research with buyers and with sellers. Now we know what to do. I think most companies out there, they've got the idea, customer experience. Let's do something to create a relevant and meaningful experience for our customers. But they don't know how to activate it. They don't know what it looks like. So it's too nebulous. We can nail it down. Just pick any one of these 30 behaviors and do it more frequently. And that creates bonds and trustworthiness and makes you the chosen seller that they want to do business with.
How does creating a shared vision, like helping prospects to imagine the possibilities, transform basically the buyer's journey or the selling process, whichever you want to call it?
Well, okay. Here's another example. You're getting lots of metaphors and analogies out of me today. Okay, so let's talk about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., because I think we could all agree that he was masterful at creating a vision and then inspiring it because so many people shared in it. So he certainly knew how to inspire a shared vision when he gave his speech, I Have a Dream. And that was powerful. Dreams and visions and thinking big about possibilities, that's just naturally appealing to people. They gravitate toward it. And when you're able to do that, that's a connection. See, it would have been entirely different if Dr. King had stood up there and said, I have a list of measurable objectives. The reaction just would not have been the same, right?
Right.
So we have to be willing, right, to think big and it's got to be shared. So knowing what your client is looking for and being able then to share and create with the buyer that vision, that's where the bond comes from.
Now, what about, there's a lot out there on like visions and what's your big audacious goal, but how does that also get communicated into like actionable, tangible things? Because it still sounds quite nebulous. You read anything about, well, what's your vision for the next 5 years? Well, how do you then transition with the prospect to then think, here are the actionable steps, right? Here's that process to get to the vision. Without
getting too tactical, because you could go straight from, 5 years from now, I want to retire. Okay, then you need to invest in A and B and C, and you need to sign this form and take these steps. And that's suddenly so tactical, and it hasn't really fleshed out the vision or done anything to inspire the buyer to work with you yet. So the behaviors, there are 6 of them that make up inspiring a shared vision. And I'll just give you one example. To be able to show someone how their own long-term interests can be realized by enlisting in a shared vision. So you begin to find out more. What does retirement mean to you? And how do you plan to spend your retirement? And what are the kinds of things that you want to do between now and then to prepare for your retirement? We need this picture. We can't have a vision if we don't know what that all looks like. And when they tell you because you ask these questions that bring it out of them. When they tell you and they're getting excited about it and they see that you are caring, because, let's face it, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So your questions indicate you are interested in this person in their own unique set of circumstances. Then, and only then, with that information, can you begin to create the vision. So I understand your dream now. Let me just articulate it back to you. You want to do this now so that you can do this then, and you have these pieces wrapped around it. Did I get that right? Is that your full vision? And, they're getting excited as they're talking about it. So then let's talk about the steps toward that vision. That's out there in the future. Let's talk now about how we can realize that vision and how you can get all the things you want out of it. That's the bridge that often gets left out.
And it seems so simple. It's just having a conversation.
We let our desire to close the sale get the best of us. And we also sometimes let things get in the way, like, oh, I know they're so busy, I better hurry here. And as we try to shortcut, we either lose sales or we make them take an awful lot longer than they have to.
What's the behaviors, or how should an advisor, or really any business owner, how should they be thinking about the sales process so that it's not rushed, but it's also not so slow that you miss the momentum?
Okay. Well, you mentioned inspire a shared vision. That's one of the 5 practices of exemplary leadership that Barry and Jim wrote about. It happens to be, out of the 5 practices, each has 6 behaviors under them, but out of the 5 practices, it happens to be the one that buyers rated the lowest. Now, all 5 were important to them. They want to see increased frequency in all of them, but that one was lowest. And interestingly enough, salespeople, when asked the same question to rank them as they think their buyers would rank them, they always put it at the top. So it's just completely flip-flopped. Here's what sellers need to do to move toward a close more effectively and to engage their buyers and create an experience. They need to go to the number 1 practice of exemplary leadership, according to buyers, which sellers usually put at the bottom as number 5. So we have that one exactly reversed too. And that particular practice is called enable others to act. That's the one that buyers get the most excited about. It's the one that has 4 out of the 6 behaviors in the top 10. And, do you want another example?
Yes.
Yeah. Here's something we can probably all relate to. We are enabling others to act when we allow them to be part of creating the solution, or part of giving a little bit of collaboration in the whole process. And we do this when we go to Chipotle. When we're a customer at the place that makes the burritos as you walk down the line.
Yes.
Well, what you're doing there, if you think about it, you're doing more work instead of just ordering off a menu board. And you're spending more money. And by the way, Chipotle's had some issues with E. coli, so you're also taking more risk. But nevertheless, their profit continues to grow. Right? They keep adding locations. And that's because of this one thing. When you're at Chipotle, you are participating in creating exactly what you want. Right? You're saying, I think I want a little more pico de gallo, and today, no beans, because I have my guacamole on the side. It's your burrito, just for you. And you got to help create it, and so you love it all the more. So we have to think about, what can we do to get our clients, our prospects involved in creating what they want, because then they have ownership of it.
What do you say to those who have that concern? Like, can I really create a customized experience where the client, the prospect is I'm enabling them to create this product that then I have to deliver.
Yeah, well, it's much easier than you think.